Hi everyone, this is Jack from Fortinet. I just want to record a short video today to demonstrate how to use FortiNDR with FortiAnalyzer. So let's start with the FortiNDR sensor interface. So after I logged in, I can see the NDR overview. The NDR box is analyzing a few million sessions, and then showing the anomalies, some attack scenarios, and some OT statistics here, right? Also in the malware dashboard, for last week has picked up some malware detected. We can go straight into the logs and all that, right? In login report, what we're going to demonstrate today is we are logging to Analyzer to an IP address here, and then we're going to take a look at the Analyzer login. But before that, let me remind you that in our documentation webpage, under the administration guide, we actually documented all the logs that we sent to Analyzer. So in the login report session, right, while on the NDR GUI, you can actually look at the different NDR logs and malware logs. But we also got the log examples that for the detection logs that we send to Analyzer. So for example, we've got botnet, we have antivirus log samples, etc. So now let's log into Analyzer to have a look at what we can see. So Analyzer is this is the latest build, the latest and greatest, 764. And then we're looking at the status page, running 764 here. For NDR, we're also running the 76 series, right? It's got some new pretty cool features like the XDR extended detection dashboard, which includes the FortiNDR as the log source and providing like 3 incidents that we should look at. But let's just focus on what you can see from the Analyzer. So from the log view, let's take a look at the logs. And then after the device is registered, accepted, you can actually see I've got some NDRs logging to here, actually 2 sensors, and also we do support logging the center to FortiAnalyzer. So there are different types of logs where there's events logged, which looks at the performance statistics. You can actually click on any one of these to look at the performance statistics. Or we do support both the attack log here also. Let's take a look at malware. So if the NDR sniffer mapping files, if you send files from FortiGate or even FortiSandbox to NDR, right, we can pick up the device ID. I can tell here FAI VMS, which is a sensor, and then it's detect malware on the attacker and the victim's port ID as well, and then including the virus name. The other type of log attack chain is actually if you have chained malware, like ransomware or worm type of malware. So think WannaCry, right? If one IP address spreads to another, actually in the log, you can actually tell the attack chain of linked malware. So the other log type that's specified in the events guide is the NDR logs. So anything that's not malware related, for example, I'm picking up some machine learning anomaly here, so I can use the standard analyzer feature, say look at subtype, maybe not equals to machine learning. I want to see what other logs are sending to analyzer. So we can tell, oh, there's some, for example, weak cipher or IPS attacks. So for IPS attacks, we actually also list out the attack name in the virus name column. And for weak cipher, for example, if we detect some HTTP weak cipher, then we can actually tell what was the reason, what was the actual cipher, etc. So this is some of the things you can see. There's also IOC alert where the NDR will actually check the destination IP or the port name for any malicious attempts to visit the outside internet, right? So these are some of the log settings. And also lastly, the last tab is NetFlow. So NDR can be configured if it's a license to receive NetFlow from, let's say, a switch or FortiGate devices, and we will check the NetFlow for attacks as well. So you can see we have NetFlows coming into these NDRs there, right? For NetFlow, apart from detecting attack, we can also run machine learning on profiling on the NetFlow logs as well. So you can see there's some alerts being raised by the machine learning after we profile the traffic. Okay, now let's take a look at the incident and event, right? So with FortiAnalyzer, you can actually generate quite a few incidents from different types of logs. In this case, we are focusing on the NDR, so as a log source. So these events are actually handled or created by the event handler. So I'll show the event handler later. So with the TTP MITRE mapping, even the NDR can classify it, but you can actually customize the TTP in Analyzer to specify what TTP this attack actually belongs to. In this case, this is an intrusion attack, and you scroll down in the incident, it will show you the timeline, the event handler. You can click on it, and I'll show you the event handler that we've created for this deployment. There's different things you can do as an incident. You can acknowledge it. You can assign it to somebody to follow up, etc. You can do different execute playbooks, doing some automation, etc. So let's take a look at some of the event handlers that we've built, right? So FortiAnalyzer ship with some default event handlers. As of now, it doesn't ship with any default NDR handlers. So in this instance, I've actually created a few. So in here, let's take a look at the network intrusions or the malware, right? Double click that. Apart from mapping the TTP, right, you can actually specify the rules that will trigger this event, right? So if I click on edit, you can see how I've configured the rule. I look at the NDR log type. So there, remember I showed you different log types. There's NDR, events, and attack. And then in this case, I've selected the subtype equals IPS attack, and then the severity equals critical. So I want any critical IPS attacks to generate an event. And in Analyzer, it's got some features where you can look at the occurrences within a time limit, right? And also some advanced settings, which you can enable different sort of advanced settings as well. So this is one of the event handler. And then I can have an email notification upon that event and automating creating the incident, which you have seen. And also, if you want some stitching action on the response, then you can select that also. In the data selector, I've selected the NDR devices, which is a group of the devices that I'm setting in. Okay, that shows you the event handler. The other event handler are very much the same. So for example, you can see here, if there's an NDR malware, it could be coming from FortiGate, NDR, or coming from sniffer, because the NDR can actually look at different sources, like whether the file is coming from FortiGate to NDR, or whether it's coming from a sniffer source, or whether it's coming from a map drive, etc. Okay. Okay, right. So that's the event handler and incident. And lastly, we want to take a look at the report. So with FortiAnalyzer, we do have two templates available. So if I search for NDR, right? So there's both the network anomalies report and then the breach report. Let's take a look at the network anomalies report first, right? So as you can see here, this is the report template where you can modify it, etc. And then let's take a look at some of this example. So if I click on HTML, right? So this is the sample report where we actually graph. Let me scroll down to the right screen here. So for example, this summarizes what the NDR can detect, anything from botnet, weak cipher, IPS, IOC, looking at the destination, port, and certificate fields, machine learning attacks, and also encrypted JA3 attacks, right? So we can specify different tables. So this is the default report. And of course, in the Analyzer, you can actually generate some reports within a specific time range. So if we take a look at the breach report, that's the other report that we haven't looked at. So you can actually run the report in an executed time. I think I've ran it for a couple of days. So if we take a look at the breach report, this is the general report around more focus on the malware types. So you can take a look at the malicious files details, detection by devices, system usage summary, and some critical events for systems, etc. So this is the Analyzer reporting definition. Okay, cool. So just to summarize, right, we've shown you today how to configure the FortiNDR to send logs to Analyzer, and how to use the Analyzer event handler to raise incidents from the NDR events, right, to raise incidents here. And then in the incident, of course, you can acknowledge, etc. And then also lastly, how do you check the log view from the Analyzer? Okay, so this concludes my presentation today. Thank you.